Hi, I'm Pav.
And I'm Neil.
And welcome to the Top 10 of Anything podcast.
Let's start the countdown.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
For 7 decades, 25 movies, 6 actors, James Bond is one of the most successful franchises in movie history. With the mix of glamour, girls, humor, intrigue, espionage, Bond is the spy we love. Do you expect us to talk? Yes, Mr. Bond, of course. This is a podcast. Here is Odd Job Neil with 10 Bond facts for all of our eyes and ears only.
Thank you very much, Pav. So the name James Bond was actually taken from a bird-watching book. Ian Fleming was in search of a name as mundane as possible when he came across a bird book and named it after the ornithologist Dr. James Bond. The corkscrew jump featured in The Man with the Golden Gun was performed in just one take and was the first stunt ever calculated by computer modelling. Pierce Brosnan was the deadliest Bond in GoldenEye alone. He ended 47 lives. In contrast, Roger Moore only does away with one person in The Man with the Golden Gun, the film with the lowest Bond kill count overall. During the filming of Tomorrow Never Dies, more than 15 BMW 750s were destroyed. In Casino Royale, the 7 full barrel rolls completed by Aston Martin DBS set a new world record for the most barrel rolls assisted by a cannon. Aston Martin also reportedly has a deal with Daniel Craig, allowing him to have any of its cars he wants straight from the factory for the rest of his life.
Sorry, I'm a bit premature then,
Right.
unlike Bond, of course.
In the novels, James Bond became a 007 at 38. Out of the various actors that have played the role, Daniel Craig is the only one to have earned his 00 status at the same age. At 106 minutes, Quantum of Solace is the shortest James Bond movie to date. And at 163 minutes, No Time to Die is the longest Bond film to date. Not only has Hollywood rewarded Daniel Craig handsomely for his role as James Bond, he has now the right to take other cars from the series. And Sean Connery started going bald at the age of 21, so he had to wear a toupee in all of his films.
Wow. Bless him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's all about Bond, James Bond, this week. And we couldn't be joined by people more special for this than the one and only hosts of SpyHard Podcast. It's Scott and Cam. Hello, guys. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having us here. I mean, I'm sure you tried everyone else first and then came to us, but I'm glad we could step up.
Well, to be honest, you were our 007th choice. So how about that?
I appreciate that Ian Fleming was looking for the most boring name ever, and yet my name, Cam Smith, somehow skated by.
Yeah. You should write some more bird books.
Yeah. No kidding.
My name's Smith, Cam Smith. I mean, it's got a ring to it. I mean,
I mean, the villain is snoozing halfway through that line delivery.
Now, obviously, you guys do a spy podcast. I listened to your review of the No Time to Die. Are you Bond fans? Is that why you wanted to do a spy podcast, or is it the other way around?
Who's this James Bond you keep talking about? The genesis of SpyHards is basically Cam is more the diehard James Bond fan than I am. Hands up to it. And basically, we were looking at a topic to cover. We were going to do a podcast about something. And originally, we thought James Bond. But then we realized there's a lot of other good ones out there that do it much better than we could. So we thought, hey, let's find our own niche. And we decided to tackle all spy movies, which actually gives us a lot more to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, we get to do stuff like James Bond or Mission Impossible, Bourne, but even like weird, obscure things. Like we did like The House on 92nd Street, like a weird 1940s docudrama. We're doing the Spy Kids movies right now, all sorts of stuff. It allows us to hop around, have fun, and tackle weird movies that maybe we would have just never seen in any other walk of life. Like we have one coming up, Operation Crossbow, World War II film that has at least really no reputation in North America, but revisiting it or visiting it for the first time for us was fascinating. So yeah, but we should say, yeah, Bond was the cornerstone for me, especially because it has been a lifelong obsession since I was about, 11, 10 years old, somewhere in there.
Right.
I'll ask the impossible question then that you probably get asked loads. What's your favorite spy movie?
Oh boy. I mean, the classy answer is to say North by Northwest, right? Like you say it and everyone goes, oh, obviously, clearly. And it's definitely up there it's tough when you start factoring in Bond though, for me, because, you look at a movie like Goldfinger and the influence that it, obviously has across pop culture is so important. It's so entertaining. So like a lot of the Bond stuff really does stand up alongside it. So for me, it really does, honestly, quite frankly, just fall between Bond and Hitchcock stuff.
Okay. Scott?
I would also usually jump to North by Northwest just to seem like I'm a bit up myself. I'm not going to choose a Bond film. I'm going to go for Alfred Hitchcock. But I'll tell you a little secret. I will put on True Lies a lot. I love that.
That is a great movie. That is a great movie. It really is. I mean,
underrated. It's not even got a 4K Blu-ray at this point. It's sat in there's a dodgy Blu-ray you can get. Otherwise, it's just DVDs. It really needs a 4K release, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, mine is where you got the name from your podcast is Spy Hard with Leslie Nielsen. That's my favorite spy movie, without a shadow of a doubt.
We haven't even covered that one yet. We're actually saving it. No, we're saving it for a special occasion. Maybe our 100th episode. We'll do Spy Hards doing Spy Hards.
That's a great idea. Neil, what's your favorite then?
Oh, I don't know. I probably would have said North by Northwest is that, but Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, I think is absolutely got to be up there somewhere. I think that's nigh on a perfect movie. I don't know. It's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't go into it too much because that could be another top 10. Is the top 10 spy movies, which we can have these guys back, obviously, because they're the experts. I will say, I'll put my cards on the table right now. Is I'm not a massive Bond fan. I mean, I like the Bond movies, but if you put it like same as like Star Wars or anything like that, I mean, it's just not the same for me. I enjoy it. I went and saw No Time to Die and sort of enjoyed it, but the whole sort of folklore of it and the backstories and things like that. There are some of the films that probably should be in my top 10 that I just haven't seen for years and years. So it's ones that you think, well, that should be in the top 10 because of the folklore behind the movie, if you like. But we have 4 top 10s to get through. We have a shit ton of honorable mentions that thank you for putting it up on asking for people's top 10. So we've got a load to get through on that as well. So we will crack on. Scott, what is your number 10 James Bond movie?
Well, this is where I start, and it's controversial because it is my only entry for Mr. Roger Moore, and that is For Your Eyes Only.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a Roger Moore hard. I was a Pierce Brosnan baby, and I like my somewhat more serious Bonds, the Sean Connerys, the Pierce Brosnans, although Pierce Brosnan's hardly serious and Die Another Day, and maybe more Daniel Craig. I find Roger Moore kind of a tough watch, personally.
Okay, I think this is going to be an age thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think myself and Neil might be slightly older than you guys, and I got a funny feeling that might show in our top 10s, maybe. Definitely, if what you just said there, Scott. So, Cam, what's your number 10?
Well, my number 10 is a Roger Moore film as well. The first Roger Moore movie I ever saw was View to a Kill. That was the first Bond movie I ever saw. And so that really kicked off my love of the franchise, was watching the classic Moore era films. And one that I just keep coming back to time and time again, Octopussy. I think any Bond list, there's going to be some we're going to name that everyone listening goes, obviously. But the journey of Bond isn't just the serious espionage capers that we see so represented on screen in the Daniel Craig era. Once upon a time, Bond was crazy. You went to the movies to see loony things happen, and Octopussy is, I think, my favorite loony Roger Moore film, where it's like almost like your dad made the movie, because it's so square. It's got like an AM radio theme song that I love. The villains aren't really scary. Bond's doing things that aren't that cool, like dressing up as a clown or impersonating Tarzan. But the whole thing is just so much fun, so colorful, incredible locations, some great action sequences. So it kind of walks that great line between dad entertainment and just pure fun.
Is that the one that the tennis player VJ Armitage appears in? Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
Really, really strange. All of a sudden, hey, that's that tennis player. You think, what the hell?
Years since I've seen Octopussy. Is that also the one with the big spinning like saw wheel on the chain?
It is. Like all these things you guys are naming are incredibly iconic, and Octopussy is a movie that often gets short shrift, but it has something like 4 incredible villains that are all memorable, including the Saw guy, action sequences that are super memorable. It's just a ton of fun.
I need to go back to that one.
Yeah. Neil, what's your number 10?
Well, this might be a bit controversial because I don't know many people that like Dalton, but License to Kill,
that's my number 6.
A brave Bond movie. In the UK, it was the first ever 15 rated Bond film. It was a lot more violent than we were used to, and I think it still stands up today as a brave Bond movie. What about you, Pav, having it in number 6?
That was when they sort of started going into making it more real. That was after Roger Moore, wasn't it?
Yeah. He did.
So it went from the cartoon Roger Moore's cartoony sort of Bonds to then this guy that just had a license to kill, and he didn't. There was no real funny quips or puns. It was just some real sort of tough violence. Like I say, it was a 15.
Yeah.
But I sort of enjoyed that. I think Timothy Dalton was one of those ones, and I noticed on our honorable mentions that a lot of people were saying, "Oh, loving the Dalton love," that a lot of people were putting Dalton's movies up, sort of quite up, and I think he got short shrift. Really, he should have had a few more. Should have had a few more outings as Bond. I think.
Yeah, he was a good Bond. I thought very good.
Yeah.
This one came very close to my top 10, like very close. It was a real battle for 10th spot for me.
It's actually my number 7.
Oh, right. Okay.
One thing that always gets thrown around is Timothy Dalton walked so Daniel Craig could run.
Yeah, that's something that should be on a poster. That should. What a
credit to SpyHards if you want.
What a quote!
It's a great quote, isn't
what
it?
A quote. Right, my number 10 is probably going to be very controversial. It's Dr. No. I haven't seen this film for a long time. Is it on in any of your guys?
It is on mine. Yeah.
What number is it on yours, Cam?
I have it at number 6.
Number 6. Okay.
I have it at number 8.
Okay. Not for you, Neil?
No. The reason being is
Dr. No.
Yeah. The reason being is I haven't seen it in such a long time. I'm a bit vague of what happens in it. I need to watch it again.
Well, I one of the reasons I put it in is because I looked at my top 10 and realized that it was very Sean Connery light. Because I can't remember which one was it. You, Scott, that said that like no, was it? I can't remember who it was. It said that Roger Moore ones are hard to watch. I find that with Sean Connery ones, and I think it's more the special effects, with just the backgrounds in the car rides and certain little bits of it, and just like judo chop, and that's how he like kills someone or incapacitates someone. But I think he's a very cool looking Bond. But I just think some of the stories. Yeah, and I just wanted to put a couple of Sean Connery ones in there. I don't know. Maybe that's pushing out. Maybe that's just I don't know.
Well, Dr. No's an interesting one, and I have it at number 6, as I said, which is pretty high for a lot of Bond fans. Don't regard this one with the level of prestige they put on, say, From Russia with Love or Goldfinger or even Thunderball.
Oh, right.
And I've always really liked Dr. No because it just feels like. It's based on the Ian Fleming novel. It's very close to the novel. And it has a little more of that, the shoe leather, the Bond walking around the job, living in sort of the locations, going from place to place. It doesn't have the urgency, but you get a lot of the really like mercenary Bond moments, like him sitting there in a hotel room waiting to assassinate someone. So I always, it's one that, look, when I was 12 years old, I did not like Dr. No. I was like, please, God, don't make me watch Dr. No. But as a, rapidly decaying 40-year-old man, there's nothing I like more than sitting down and watching Dr. No.
Scott, what about you? You got it at number 8.
I have it at number 8. I mean, maybe it's slightly recency bias. I mean, we covered it on the show last year, but for me, Doctor No is the one that just kicked everything off, and every film that followed it takes so much from Doctor No. And also, whenever I walk across a hotel lobby, in my ear, I can hear the Bond theme playing, and that's basically all that happens in Doctor No. Whenever Sean Connery is walking, the Bond theme is playing. So I like to pretend I'm Bond doing the same thing.
Right, Scott, then you're number 9.
My number 9 is my first Pierce Brosnan entry. It probably should be higher up, but this list is kind of just where I sit right now. It tends to change every so often. But for me, this is probably my comfort food Bond film that I will go to if I just want to pick me up. Much like Cam will go to Octopussy, I will go to Tomorrow Never Dies.
Okay. He was one of those guys that seems to me was born to play Bond. But spoilers, but I haven't got a single Pierce Brosnan movie in my top 10.
Wow.
Because I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. I don't know whether it's because I've watched a few clips of some of his movies now, and it just feels a little bit like he's a little bit smug. I'm, the looks on your faces is like, you absolute idiot. What are you talking about? But I'm assuming you guys are fans of Brosnan, yeah?
I think I am more than Cam. Just based on, I mean, I was brought into the Bond franchise by the GoldenEye video game.
Right, okay.
So you'll find GoldenEye's on my list, and it's a lot higher than Tomorrow Never Dies, just as a spoiler there. But Tomorrow Never Dies is the one I go to for just the pure fun of the Pierce Brosnan era. GoldenEye's a bit more serious. Tomorrow Never Dies is just, it's probably the closest to a Roger Moore film he does, apart from maybe Die Another Day. It's just a fun adventure with the guy who I felt was born to play the role.
Right.
Yeah. Like for me, those, especially the first two Brosnans, were probably the most important Bond movie-going experiences I ever had, because I was a kid who grew up on the Roger Moore films, and then I did see the Timothy Daltons. But the first Bond movie I ever saw in a theater was GoldenEye, and so walking out of GoldenEye, so excited to see the next one. Tomorrow Never Dies was a big deal. I remember I even got one of the theater displays for the movie that I hung in my room for several years past that movie's sell-by date in terms of pop culture awareness. But it was just such a fantastic action movie. Didn't quite make my top 10, but it's definitely one I revisit a lot more than, say, Die Another Day.
Right.
I always felt Jonathan Pryce as the villain, though, was a little bit underwhelming.
Underwhelming or overwhelming?
No, it's just like he didn't really, because I just didn't feel villainous enough to me. And somebody of Jonathan Pryce's caliber should have been a lot more utilized. But
it's really hard when the villain can't go toe to toe with Bond. Like even Blofeld maybe couldn't go toe to toe, but like he didn't even really have a henchman apart from Stamper. He wasn't that effective of a force. He was more just fun to watch on screen. All that stuff where he's doing the air typing and just saying like delicious. It's like, this is great. I love this.
I like to watch that villain. And this was something I really tapped into when I revisited it for SpyHards, which is that he is the ultimate impotent villain. Like he is completely out of his depth. Opposite Bond, opposite all these mercenaries he's working with. His people don't even listen to him. He gives them commands and they don't even respond to him. Like it's kind of this running gag of everything about this guy is just completely undone by the end. So I think he's actually more of a comedic villain than one of the serious ones we regard, like, Blofeld or something.
He does also get the best, or maybe one of the best deaths in Bond, which is being fed into a giant shredding machine. Preceding when Pierce Brosnan says, give the people what they want, and then just throws him into it. He just gets minced to pieces. It's just great.
It is.
I feel like I need to maybe give Pierce Brosnan's like Bond a bit more of a chance again and have a watch, I think. Yeah, okay. Right, Cam, you're number 9.
My number 9 is Skyfall. This was another, obviously big deal. This was the 50th anniversary Bond film and probably the most beautiful looking Bond movie ever made. I think you could maybe make an argument with No Time to Die as well. That one looks pretty fantastic. But this one just, I have other Craigs on the list, so I'm not knocking the previous films, but it was sort of the most Bondian Craig film at this point, where I was seeing a lot of the hallmarks of the series that I loved, brought into the Craig era, which initially seemed wary about tackling some of the more Bondian tropes, like some of the more over-the-top stuff. This one really walked the line well, where you had that kind of gritty Craig style, but with like Javier Bardem's villain is an all-time great villain. You know, you do a villain list, he's near the top. And just a number of set pieces that are absolutely incredible. I really find this an incredibly fun movie. And I did, though, say I didn't include No Time to Die in my rankings because I'm just not, as a lifelong Bond fan, I'm not comfortable yet committing to where I feel like I can rank it. I still have to kind of wrap my head around it. But I am kind of jockeying a little bit between how I feel about it in comparison to Skyfall. But they're both fantastic movies.
That's my number 7, Pav.
That's
Skyfall.
my number 7 as well. There you go.
The only thing I found that stopped me marking Skyfall higher is I thought the end set piece wasn't as strong as the other set pieces. It
Agreed.
just seemed a bit of a an anticlimax. That's the only thing that let it down for me. But Javier Bardem, I would love to have seen him more on screen as well, a lot more, because I just relished his villain. I think he's probably one of the best Bond villains. So
yeah. Now, was it the Albert Finney character? Were they saying that it was supposed to have been Sean Connery, or is that like just folklore?
They've never confirmed that, but I've heard that one of the early drafts for Skyfall was that Skyfall was not an ancestral home for Bond. It was like a retirement place for spies. So the idea would be like, if you were phased out of 00, you were going there because you couldn't be let free on the streets, right? So you would go to this place called Skyfall. So that's why he's so unsettled by the entire idea of what Skyfall is. And that when he'd go there, Connery would be there, because he would have been one of the retired spies. Now, the truth of this is locked away in the Eon vaults somewhere, but that is kind of the accepted rumor, I guess, now.
I've always loved that idea that 007, the James Bond is a name that is passed on to the next 007 rather than it, I just think that's a great idea. And then it also means it makes sense that the world's biggest spy can walk into a place and go, hello, I'm James Bond, and nobody thinks, I've seen him before. That's has anybody else got Skyfall in their top 10?
I do. It's actually number 6 for me, so one higher.
Number 6. Yeah. Okay. And what's your thoughts on Skyfall then, Scott?
I think it just came at quite an important time for me. I think, and also it was an important time for England. It was around the time of the Olympics. It was the 50th anniversary of Bond. The marketing was non-stop. Let's not forget, Adele's song is probably one of the best Bond songs we've had in quite some time. I do like to see the Royale, Chris Cornell's track, but since maybe Goldeneye is really, it's one that's gone beyond, because you still hear that song on the radio now. You don't tend to hear Chris Cornell's "You Know My Name." And it was such a powerful piece at the time, and the marketing was so strong that it's left an imprint in my mind. I haven't revisited. We haven't done it on the show yet. I haven't gone back and watched it in a while. Maybe it'll come down in my rankings if I rewatched it after 5 years. But right now, I think it sits around the middle.
It's got a great opening sequence, I feel, in Skyfall. One of the best.
Take the shot.
That's it. Absolutely. Neil, you're number 9.
It was Brosnan, and it's The World Is Not Enough. Now, this whole a special place in my heart for this one, because I was actually working for Motorola when they were filming this, and they used it as the Turkish oil refinery. So I was there watching them film bits of it, and then we had a lovely Q&A. I mean, Pierce Brosnan wasn't there, but we had Sophie Marceau, we had Robert Carlyle, Judi Dench, all came and spoke to all the workers, and then we were invited to go and see it for free for being put out. And I have to say, I enjoyed it as a movie. I think Robert Carlyle was pretty good in it. Sophie Marceau is always beautiful to watch, and a great Bond girl. And yeah, it's probably nearly my favorite Brosnan. Nearly.
Okay, guys, I got that in your top 10 at all?
Not on my list, but I would say, though, Sophie Marceau's Electra King is a really underrated villain that I think at the time was somewhat dismissed, and the conversation's swirling around a lot more these days, is how vital she was just as a villain that we'd like to see more of in the future.
I would completely agree with it.
Okay. Again, controversially, my number 9, probably going to be high in your guys' top 10s, is Goldfinger.
Oh, that's my number 6.
That's my number 3.
That's your number 3. Okay.
Number 4.
Okay. Again, I mean, I'm going to use Neil's word. It's one of the most iconic movies. The trouble again is that I haven't seen it for so long. And the trouble is as well, I've got so many iconic moments of like Sean Connery moments in my mind. I'm not quite sure which movie they are all in. So that's the trouble that I've got. I know that Goldfinger is the last Connery movie that I watched. And I think that's the reason that I put it at number 9. But the other movies that are above that are all movies that I've watched a lot more and a lot more frequently and a lot more recently. So that's not a very good way of saying, wow, hey, great for Goldfinger, but I know that it's an iconic movie. So take it away, guys. What do you think?
Well, I mean, Goldfinger is, if I say like Dr. No was the initial blueprint, Goldfinger is the actual blueprint that is used throughout the rest of history. Yeah. Goldfinger is the one they reference. They go, well, we have to do this stuff because they did it in Goldfinger. And that still is used today as the benchmark. So, I mean, it's not my number 1, but apart from maybe a couple of mistakes, it is easily one of the best Bond films for me.
And so it's one that like nails down the template like perfectly, just right away. And it's like really crazy when you rewatch it. It's a movie I compared when we did the episode on that one to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it's so economical. Every piece fits together absolutely perfectly. It's just machine tooled to just absolute entertainment perfection. And it just is a race from beginning to end. Everything pops, incredible villains. Pussy Galore is one of the all-time great, Bond girls. And just the locations, Connery's performance, it's all firing on all cylinders. This is, I think, when you look at what 60s Bond was, I think there's one on my list that's maybe the ultimate 60s Bond film for better or worse, but Goldfinger represents the very best of what Bond could be in the 60s.
Right. So you said that's the movie where the Bond checklist was basically invented. So
yeah, like
gadgets, girls, quips, bad villain, it's all there in that movie.
Like the pre-title sequence where Bond does something really cool. There's a pre-title sequence in From Russia with Love, but it's a little off. It's more of a villain-centric moment, whereas with Goldfinger, you get the side mission that has nothing to do with the larger story and Bond doing cool things with these positively shocking. The way the action climax all ties off, the villain surprise at the end, all these sorts of elements would be carried forward. Yeah,
it's also the first one to have a track. Has an actual. I mean, the other two, Dr. No and From Russia with Love, had songs, but Goldfinger was the first one that was really like it got radio play. People referenced Goldfinger as a song, and that's something they used from then on in.
And wasn't it for the first appearance of the DB5 as well?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty certain it was. Yeah, the iconic Aston Martin path that you had the toy about. We spoke about it before.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah, I'm terrible with cars. I got no idea what they're just numbers and letters. Did you say it was in your top 10, Neil?
Yeah, it was my number 6.
No, number 6. Okay. Right. So that was my number 9. Number 8. Scott, you said Dr. No.
That's right.
That's right. So Cam, your number 8.
My number 8, I hinted at it just a few minutes ago when I said there's maybe one Bond film that's the ultimate 60s for better and worse, and that is my number 8. That's Thunderball.
Well, that's number 5, Pav.
Okay, that's your number 5. Scott and I are, I think, very split on Thunderball, and it's a movie, if you look it up, say, on Letterboxd, it's like a lot of people do not like Thunderball. It is, I think, the ultimate bask in the world of Bond movie. It is like the Lifestyles Bond movie or the Island Time. You're going on vacation with Bond, and he's just going to go from beautiful location to beautiful location. You're going to soak up all the gadgets, all the world building of Bond. It is not on a fast track the way that Goldfinger was, but just some of the stuff in it, I'm like a big shark guy. All the shark stuff works really well for me. Connery is still committed. He hasn't quite gone into sleep mode yet, which will happen very soon. And it has very iconic elements. I don't think Largo is the greatest Bond villain or Domino is the greatest Bond girl, but they're very iconic and I think stand up very well just in terms of you understand why they have so much, why they have so much fandom swirling around them. But to me, this is like it's become a bit of a trend for me on my birthdays that I will try to fit in a watch of Thunderball, because it's like, I don't want the fast, exciting Bond movie. I want the one where I can just sit back and relax in sort of the world of Bond. And so that's Thunderball.
Perfectly put. And also, I mean, to me, that was the first Sean Connery I saw as a child. And it did excite me as a child, you know, with all the things like the jetpack and you say about the toys. It fulfilled everything that it was supposed to do on the tin to me. And they also remade it, didn't they? It's Never Say Never Again.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. But also we should say it. Fiona Volpe is an incredible villain as well. So she is probably, if you're going to talk about a character introduced in that movie that does stand the test of time really strongly, it's her.
I think we need to address the shock in the room, and that is the 24 minutes of underwater scenes in Thunderball that just put you to sleep, man. They just put you to sleep. I can't stand by that one, unfortunately.
I do get the feeling that there's history between you two guys just about that one movie, but just by the looking at your faces. Okay, so Neil, you're number 8.
Man with the Golden Gun.
Okay,
yeah,
that's my number 2. So you can get the idea of what my top 10 is going to be like, because that is my number 2.
Yeah, this is one of my. It took a while to sort of appreciate it for what it is. And Christopher Lee, I think, you know, with his third nipple, was fantastic as the villain. I really do. And, you know, and there's history between Ian Fleming and Christopher Lee, if you look into it and everything. But regardless, it was a fun, I mean, Roger Moore's fighting in it leaves a lot to be desired, but we can say that since he did Live and Let Die. But it's just it's a rounded piece, isn't it? It's a great piece, and the ending, the climax, and the hunt on the island. You know, the game that they play. I think it's fantastic. It ended up perfectly, that movie. What about you, pal?
Well, the whole thing is, I was as a kid scared shitless of Christopher Lee, because he was Dracula. So to see him in something else where he wasn't obviously Dracula, but just looking at him, there's something about him that made me scared as a kid. So he was a perfect villain for this. Again, watching it as a kid, Bond movies were, especially the Roger Moore ones, were more like live cartoons. And when you're a kid, you know, you're seeing all these amazing cars and gadgets and just this over-the-top action. And then you also had this person that was like somebody that struck the fear into you. So it was a perfect, and I've watched it, and it is cheesy, and you know, it's you can tell when the stuntman's in doing Roger Moore's fighting. You can always tell.
Yeah, but I was going to say that doesn't take away. It's got some fantastic car chases, like I mentioned in the facts. It's got the barrel roll and everything like that. I think some of the stunt work in it is sublime. It really is good stunt work.
And I just think it's just great fun. It's a great fun movie. I don't think it takes itself particularly seriously. The whole room of mirrors near the end is fantastic. And the bit at the start with the guy saying, whose funeral is it? It's yours. And then it's the New Orleans. Is it New Orleans, I think? And
that's Live and Let Die.
Oh, shit. Is it? See what I mean? See what I mean? They all meld into one. I'll talk about Live and Let Die a little bit later on.
Isn't the man with the golden gun the one when he, or is that For Your Eyes Only, Stephen? I forget, where he picks him up with the helicopter?
That's For Your Eyes Only.
Oh Christ, I'm getting at it now. It's
I'm so glad you guys are here.
Yeah, right, it's our age.
The room full of mirrors. That's Man with the Golden Gun, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's move on quickly. Right, so
your number 8.
My number 8 is The Spy Who Loved Me.
Which is my number 4.
My number 5.
Okay, wow, we're really okay. Spy Who Loved Me. Spy Who Loved Me. Again, well, look, you're going to know that I'm a Roger Moore fan. So Roger Moore is my favorite Bond. I just love the fact that he's got that glint in his eye. He's got the perfect way of just the quips. Not so much when he got a little bit older. I think it looked a little bit weird when he was like copping off with women and he looks like 60 and the women look like 25 or whatever. But it's the car mainly for Spy Who Loved Me. As much as I don't know anything about cars, we spoke about it on our movie vehicles episode. There's just something wonderful about that Lotus. There's just something magical about it. And I would have had an hour and a half of him just driving on the ground or in the sea in that car. So that's mine. Guys, take it away.
Yeah, I love this one a lot. This was my most go-to Roger Moore film as a kid. You have sharks, you've got Jaws, you've got two great things that go great together. And it just has incredible action sequences throughout, just right from the pre-title sequence of the jump off the cliff with the parachute, on the skis, all the underwater action. We, Scott and I maybe split on the underwater action of Thunderball, but the underwater action of Spy Who Loved Me is much faster paced and more exciting. It just feels like they often struggle, I think, with Roger Moore's to lock into the excitement of those Connery Bonds. That's why a lot of them are maybe a little more wacky or fun, like say like Octopussy or Moonraker or something like that. But I feel like Spy Who Loved Me was the one where they really hit the nail on the head, and it walked that perfect balance of what made Moore special, the comedy, the light delivery with the excitement. So there's a reason it's generally regarded as his best one.
And it's probably got one of the best set pieces at the end of all of the Bond movies to me. The whole bit with the submarine and the underground layer and all of that. I think it's just perfect Bond in that sense.
It's got one knock against it for me, which is the villain, Stromberg. Not one of the all-timers, but you got Jaws there, so you can kind of look past it.
Yeah, I can remember watching whatever film with Barry Norman when they came from the set of that, the big submarine, because it was a big massive set, wasn't it?
Yeah,
at the end. I can always remember that in the 70s, whenever it was.
It was the first Bond film I saw at the cinema. It was the double bill of Moonraker when they used to do double bills.
Right.
It's the first one I ever saw at the pictures.
Goodness me. Right, number 7. Scott had License to Kill. So Cam, you're number 7.
I have From Russia with Love, which, coming off of Dr. No, they have really nailed down the Connery Bond, sort of the mercenary edge of that Bond. And he would become a little more superhero with the following film, Goldfinger. But that mercenary edge is really there. And From Russia with Love, it's a really tight espionage caper, very Hitchcockian. You've got train travel, which is the ultimate Hitchcock trope. And Robert Shaw is an incredible villain. Also, Lotte Lenya as Rosa Klebb is so cool, and obviously inspired Frau Farbissina in the Austin Powers films. This one is just, Bond movies are not known for their tight pacing and really economical run times, especially when we're talking about, say, No Time to Die recently, which is almost 3 hours. Whereas you look at one like From Russia with Love, which is just under 2 hours and just moves beginning to end. Everything fits together really well. It's a really fantastic thriller.
It's been a long time. I didn't put it on my list because it's been such a long time since I've seen it. Is Klebb the one that had the knives in her shoes?
Yeah.
Yeah, for its time. Look at that. How brutal is that? Especially for the 60s. But yeah, I do. That's starting to come back. I'm going to have to watch all these again.
I know. Scott, is that not in your top 10?
It's actually my number 2.
Ooh.
It's for me. We were saying earlier about favorite spy films, and I went to Hitchcock initially. This is Bond merging with Hitchcock. I can't really complain, and I really don't like films that go past 2 hours personally. So it's nice and compact, and it's probably Connery at his best for me. His most panther-like. He's always referred to as some sort of animal. We'll go for panther this time. And that fight in the train with Robert Shaw, I think it's still used as showing people, fight choreography and stuff like that. It's a great little scene.
And also, we were referencing North by Northwest earlier, and this movie is heavily influenced by North by Northwest. The entire finale with the helicopter is a lot like the crop duster in North by Northwest.
Right. And you did mention Cam, Austin Powers. Is that something that sort of ruined Bond a little bit in regards to, because that's one reason maybe why I can't get in touch with the Connery Bond, because you watch it and you go, oh my God, that's the bit that they took the piss out of in Austin Powers. Does that have any influence on you guys?
I think I really enjoyed the Austin Powers films, and it didn't affect my enjoyment of Bond, but I think it forced Bond to readjust what it is. you couldn't do these sorts of megalomaniacal villains the way you had like a Dr. Evil, who obviously was a lot like Blofeld in some of the classic Bond films. So it made them, well, ultimately it led to Casino Royale. It led to them taking an entirely different approach to what Bond was for a whole generation. So I think if anything, it made them, think outside the box and come up with something cool. I think if, you have a franchise just resting on its laurels for too long and people start lampooning it and it doesn't, change up its game, then it doesn't really deserve to continue on. So I think it probably worked out for the better, honestly.
Okay, so we have, let me see now. So that was the Rest of Our Love. Neil, you had Skyfall at number 7.
Yep.
Scott, you had Skyfall at number 6.
Mm-hmm.
And Cam had Dr. No at number 6.
Mhm.
Neil had Goldfinger at number 6. I had License to Kill at number 6. So, Scott, you're number 5.
Well, I have to say goodbye to my favorite Bond at this point. Golden Eye, I found his weakness.
It's my number 3, by the way, Perry.
Okay.
My number 4.
It brought me to the game, I have to say. It was the first film we ever covered on SpyHards, and for good reason. It's probably the one I go to, apart from Tomorrow Never Dies, as a easy to watch Bond film. It has a couple of faults, and that's why it's not number 1 or 2 for me. But it's easily Pierce Brosnan's best film.
Okay.
Yeah, it is such a slick techno thriller. Like it's one that I think I was a little dismissive of in the past, especially like when I was more a teenager, early 20s. I actually gravitated more towards Tomorrow Never Dies because it was that really efficient delivery system for action movie moments. Like it just gave me everything I wanted at that age. But when I revisit Goldeneye now, I'm much more awed by just how incredible it is with all of its villains. A lot of Bond movies, you're hoping for that one iconic villain. There's like 4 that come out of Goldeneye. It has incredible action set pieces. Martin Campbell directed this one. This was his first, and he would come back for Casino Royale. And just so confident. Brosnan, I think, really wears the suit well in his first appearance. Just one that it's like, I think it was dismissed somewhat when it came out. I remember a lot of the reviews were like those B grade reviews or 3 stars or even a couple C pluses. They were like, oh yeah, Bond's back. He's doing what he does. Enjoy it or don't, that sort of thing. Whereas I think now we look at Goldeneye as maybe the last great burst of what classic Bond could be.
And again, great set pieces that we talked about, from the damn bungee jump down to the tank. That tank whole section, I think, is fantastic when they're racing through with the tanks. It's by far the most accomplished Pierce Brosnan one, I think. And yeah, it came out with a bang, didn't it? It really did. It changed Bond. That's the one that changed Bond for me.
It's also got one of the best Bond girls in the Talia, in the sense that she was one of the first that was actually well written and had her own arc independent of Bond. Something they've tried to replicate since, to varying success.
Yeah, and also Xenia Onatopp is Famke Janssen just like launching herself onto the screen there, and would continue to have a very strong career, which wasn't often the case for people that played femme fatales in Bond movies. So,
and who else wanted to try those thighs to see if they really could crush you?
Okay, so Cam had number 5, Spy Who Loved Me. Neil had number 5, Thunderball. My number 5 is Moonraker. It's again another cheesy Roger Moore. I had the James Bond action figure, like the Action Man figure, and I got that for Christmas that year, and I absolutely loved that action figure. All decked in his spaceman outfit. I think it's also because I was mad into Star Wars, so it was like somebody in space. So you thought, my God, this is going to be great, and it's got Jaws. Jaws is in it as well, isn't he? I think. Is that right? Is that right? Let me get that right. So it had everything that I loved about James Bond in it, but also everything was in space as well. So I'm assuming that isn't in anybody else's higher top echelons of their top 10. No,
it's too wacky for me. It's too far out. But you know how I feel about Roger Moore films. It does have my second favorite Bond line of all time, though.
Is that the re-entry one?
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, you can't.
Moonraker's it's a movie that I said, like, Octopussy is my favorite crazy Roger Moore one. Moonraker was one I always liked the highs of it, but I struggle more with a lot of the slower paced storytelling of it, where it kind of loses me. But we should say Michael Lonsdale as Hugo Drax is top tier Roger Moore villain. So he's great.
Yeah, agree. Right. So for number 4, Scott said Goldfinger. Cam said GoldenEye. Neil said Spy Who Loved Me. I've gone for On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It's my number 2.
That's your number 2.
My number 3.
Oh, there we go. Everything's getting filled in. That's good. I never watched this film for years and years and years because it was always the thing. Oh, George Lazenby, one and done. You know, not a very good Bond. And I must have been bored one day, and I sat and watched it, and I absolutely loved it. It hit me more emotionally than I ever thought a Bond movie ever could. I thought he was a great Bond. I didn't think there was anything wrong with him as a Bond. I loved the little quip about something about the other guy or something. There was a quip about I'll probably get that wrong as well. But I just really loved it. It was I don't understand what all the hate about that movie was. Maybe you guys can fill us in.
It gets a lot of love these days, but I think back in the day, it was just losing Connery and having George Lazenby there, this guy that people just didn't connect with. It financially didn't do the box office that Connery had been doing. And it was and the fact it sort of ends on a little bit of a cliffhanger that was never paid off in any interesting way. It kind of made it this weird little curiosity that for decades people just dismissed. And in recent years, the director Steven Soderbergh wrote like a whole essay on his website about how this is one of the most inspiring movies to him. He revisits it all the time when he's about to make a movie, just to see what he could do that's interesting and innovative that this movie was doing. So it's kind of become a little bit of a critical darling, and Lazenby's gotten a lot of reappraisal. And it's one I think going forward, people will look at On Her Majesty's as one of the all-time great Bond films.
And not to mention, it's getting referenced by people like Christopher Nolan. You take Inception, that whole snow chapter is basically On Her Majesty's, really, even with the outfits and stuff. And, you know, spoiler-ish, but No Time to Die does lean quite heavy on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
And you look at what they're doing with action in this movie, with like the bobsled chase, and it just feels like next level for what Bond was doing. Scott and I recently covered You Only Live Twice, which is Connery's 5th entry. And you just see like the action's getting a little more laid back. Connery's not quite as committed as maybe he was, you know, when you're looking at like Dr. No or Goldfinger. And this just feels like such a shot in the arm where you're getting like a 28-year-old Lazenby going in there, and the fist fights are like vicious. He's sliding through the ice, firing a gun. It just feels like a much more physical Bond. Plus, you have the whole Diana Rigg love interest story, which is one of the all-time great love stories in Bond.
Yeah. I mean, when I watched it, I didn't know anything about it apart from obviously the sort of bad press, if you like, or the negative press about the movie. So, I don't know, can you say spoilers for a movie that's like, I don't know, 50 years old? that actual really shocked me. That whole moment with Diana Rigg just shocked me. And it was, I was just absolutely loved it. So, yeah, that's my number 4. Number 3. So Scott, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is your number 3. Goldfinger is Cam's number 3. GoldenEye, is that right, Neil? Was your number 3?
Yep.
Okay. Number 2. My number 3 is Casino Royale,
which is my number 2.
Which is your number 2.
My number 1.
Okay.
Number 1.
Oh, right. Okay.
Oh.
So, I mean, what's to be said about this? It's sort of for me, it was the start of the new chapter for Bond, and I think like you said, Cam, it's like they had to look at it in a different way. But I think right from the start, it was a great movie.
Yeah, what you said just now is perfect to what it was. It was Bond needed to catch up. We'd had the likes of True Lies, we'd had the likes of Bourne and things like that, where things were looking a bit more gritty and realistic. And it was where James Bond sort of caught up with realism, if you see what I mean, to a certain extent. And it was refreshing. It really was refreshing.
You also had Batman Begins in 2005. And a lot of the discussion about this movie when it was going through production was that it's kind of being referred to as Bond Begins, Like there was very much in the air. It has a bit of a Christopher Nolan vibe as well. And just unbelievably confident. And I remember I wasn't thrilled. Like I was someone who had really adored Brosnan in the role. I felt very committed to him as, continuing on to play Bond. And Die Another Day, it sucks, but it was massively successful. Like its box office was the highest of any movie that Brosnan had made. So in my mind, I was looking forward to, that's the way it goes with Bond actors. You make a dud, but then you follow up with another one and hopefully it's really great. And I remember feeling kind of a little bit wounded when he was a little bit unceremoniously cut loose from the role. They hired Daniel Craig, a guy I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. And he certainly doesn't look like Bond to me. And yet the movie just delivers in a way that I don't know that any Bond movie has ever delivered as just explosively out of the gate the way Casino Royale did, where it instantly turned everyone around, and people who were maybe casual Bond watchers got hugely invested in the ongoing adventures of this new take on the character. Like it does everything you need it to do perfectly, even while casting aside so many of the tropes that at this point had become cliches. Like it still feels incredibly Bondian, despite the fact it's doing things very differently.
When you talk about genre films, and we talk about spy films on SpyHards all the time, so we talk about a genre. Sometimes it's hard to find the films that transcend, and Casino Royale is easily one of the ones that transcend that genre from a good spy film to just a good film, whatever genre you're talking about. And you say like Star Trek, for instance. I always think Wrath of Khan transcends the Star Trek films to be another level. And I'm not saying those two compare necessarily, but Casino Royale is one of those films that you could sit any person down that likes films and go, watch this, and they'll probably enjoy it. They don't have to like Bond at all. They can pick it up and they can run with it, run through a wall.
And it has like a human drama to it with the entire relationship with him and Vesper. That, Eva Green's character, that it connected people to that story in an emotional way that Bond wasn't known for really working emotionally. People didn't walk out of Die Another Day wrapped up in the story of Bond and Jinx, for example. And even, I'm being a little flippant there. Like there are obviously the Natalia Bond relationship in Goldeneye is very successful, but I don't know that people walked out as emotionally involved as they were with Casino Royale. And it really did bring a lot of new people to the Bond table who became really obsessed with the franchise. Like you look at the grosses on the Craigs, they just build and build and build, where people were just in love with Bond. And as a Bond fan, that's a good thing, because I always am like, please God, let these movies continue on. I want to be watching Bond movies when I'm 80 and 90 years old. So I don't want to have the one that's going to just, kill the franchise.
Well, I think that was the thing with me, is I was sort of done with the Pierce Brosnan Bond movies. I lost all interest, and I can remember watching the trailer for Casino Royale, and I thought, this looks different. This doesn't look like the Pierce Brosnan Bonds. This looks like it's dark and gritty and well, like Batman Begins, like you say, it was that sort of take on it, that kind of mood they were going for. So we've got two of your number ones. That's good. Neil's number two. So that was my number three. Scott's number two was From Russia with Love. Cam's was On Her Majesty's Secret Service. For Neil, it was Casino Royale. So before we actually do go into our last two number ones, Scott, do you want to give us your rundown for 10 to 2?
Sure thing. So running down from 10 to 2, we have 10, For Your Eyes Only, 9, Tomorrow Never Dies, 8, Dr. No, 7, License to Kill, 6, Skyfall, 5, Goldeneye, 4, Goldfinger, 3, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and 2, From Russia with Love.
Thank you. And Cam, can we have your 10 to 2?
Number 10, Octopussy. Number 9, Skyfall. Number 8, Thunderball. Number 007, From Russia with Love.
Nice.
Number 6, Dr. No. Number 5, The Spy Who Loved Me. Number 4, Goldeneye. Number 3, Goldfinger. And number 2, On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
And Neil?
So number 10, License to Kill. Number 9, The World Is Not Enough. Number 8, The Man with the Golden Gun. 7, Skyfall. 6, Goldfinger. 5, Thunderball. 4, Spy Who Loved Me. 3, Goldeneye. And number 2, Casino Royale.
Thank you. Mine is number 10, Dr. No. Number 9, Goldfinger. 8, The Spy Who Loved Me. 7, Skyfall. 6, License to Kill, 5, Moonraker, 4, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, 3, Casino Royale, and my number 2 was Man with the Golden Gun. So Scott and Cam, we got your number 1 as Casino Royale. Neil, what's your number 1?
I have a feeling we've got the same favourite Bond movie here.
Do you
Live and Let
reckon?
Die.
It is Live and... That's the age thing. That's
It's
the
gotta
age
be,
thing.
hasn't it?
Yeah, Live and Let Die.
I still love this movie to this day. It's got everything for me. And actually, when I was younger, it used to frighten the bejesus out of me with Baron, what's his name, and yeah. But it's got everything. It's got your sharks. It's got your tanks. It's almost got your laser firing sharks in it. It's got the great weapons. It's got great stunts. I mean, watching some of the makings of back on YouTube that I'd seen years ago, you know, the fact that that guy really did that alligator run is just crazy, isn't it? When you think about it. And it's got one of the best deaths of a villain, I think, going with the expanding bullet. And I absolutely think that's funny yet terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, and for me, it's got the best Bond theme ever as well. I
agreed. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it's got Jane Seymour as well. I think,
That can't hurt. That can't hurt.
But yeah, the whole voodoo situation throughout it was. Well, I used to find it quite creepy. Now I find it quite fascinating, and yeah, it works so well, so well.
Yeah, go on, guys. Have you got something to say about?
There's few Bond films, or I say Bond actors, who hit that ground running more than Roger Moore in Live and Let Die. Now, it's not on my top 10 list, but I'm just not a Roger Moore guy, but I can acknowledge that Live and Let Die is a great starting film. It's not Casino Royale for me, but I mean, from the song to just some of the scenes that's so memorable about that film, it's an easy watch for me, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that I definitely flirted with putting on my top 10. You know what holds it back? The 27-minute boat chase.
All right.
Where I'm watching Roger Moore's stunt double for 27 minutes as he disappears from the movie, and also Sheriff J.W. Pepper takes over the movie. But again, like I do enjoy the boat chase is kind of funny, but it's a movie that I think is really interesting where, as Scott said, like Roger Moore nails it right out of the gate, but they were also so like not confident with him, in his first movie. Like they're giving him cigars. He's not doing a lot of the classic Bond lines. They're dressing him differently because they were like, well, maybe we should make it more American ? They were looking at casting an American Bond for that movie. And yet, despite all these sort of limitations, the things they would introduce back to the character, particularly in The Spy Who Loved Me, he still walks out of it feeling exactly like Bond. He's holding a revolver like Dirty Harry, but I'm still like, this is James Bond. I buy it. And he is so slick. He's Roger Moore was 45, I think, when he did that one, but he's a young looking 45.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you look at Connery, who's like 40 in Diamonds Are Forever. And it's like, what is going on here? This is like a time paradox, but no, Live and Let Die is a ton of fun for sure.
It is. Now we've got a load of honorable mentions. I will give everybody a shout out, but we won't go through every single top 10, although we're going to have a little bit of a quiz with one of these because see who's the quickest off the mark. But first of all, Rob James says Live and Let Die. Sheriff J.W. Pepper cracks me up. Claire Godwin said Casino Royale. Daniel Craig, he brought Bond to another level. Amanda Facer says don't watch it, so I'm out. So thanks for that, Amanda. That's very very kind of you. Robert Etherington said Skyfall takes Bond to another level. He says Crocodile Farm. I think it's Alligator Farm.
It was alligators
in Live and Let Die. Brilliant, but would never happen. I mean, it's Bond.
Sure.
It did happen though, didn't it? That stunt did happen.
Yeah.
So they did it for real.
Goldfinger, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Brian E. Robinson said A View to a Kill. Grace Jones is just brilliant. That's another one. I was always scared shitless of Grace Jones as well. It's just something about her. Roger Moore and Sean Connery are the best Bonds in my opinion. Peter Wixie said Dr. No, Goldfinger, Russia with Love, Majesty's Secret Service, Quantum of Solace. Right, see who can get these quickly then. On Twitter, at Stuart RJ said number 1, TMWTGG.
Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, I think I can give you all a point there. Number 2, LTK.
License to Kill.
Oh, that was Scott, just Scott. Number 3, YOLT.
You only
You
live
only did
once.
twice.
Twice.
I'll give Neil and Cam half a point there. Number 8, QOS.
Quantum
Quantum
of
of
Solace.
Solace.
All together again. Number 9, Twine.
Is that on someone's top list? Hang on.
That was number 8. That was number 8 in his list.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
To be fair, Scott, we had a guest on that episode that hasn't come out yet, who that is like their all-time favorite Connery Bond movie, I believe. So, it was close too.
Okay. Number 9, Twine. TWINE.
Oh, The World Is Not Enough.
Well done, Cam. And number 10, TLD.
The Living Daylights.
Yeah.
Well done, Scott. Oh, I'd say the spy guys won that one there, Neil. You let us down, mate. You let us down. I'm sorry.
Well, I thought we better give other people a chance.
So at Nairn Aiden said, at the moment, roughly, I think this is the thing as well, isn't it? It's like, if we spoke to you guys next month, your top 10 would probably be, if not completely different, would have a few different ones in there.
Yeah, I tend to find that's the case with Bond fans in general. People that are really into Bond, their lists constantly change. And even if you ask, you'll line up 10 Bond fans and ask them their top 3, they all differ, which is one of the things I find the most enjoyable about the franchise. Scott referenced earlier Star Trek 2. You line up a bunch of Star Trek fans and ask them what the best Star Trek movies are, they're going to give you all the same list.
Yeah.
So I actually think that's one of the greatest things about Bond is it can so much depend on your mood.
Mm-hmm.
I may not necessarily be in the mood to sit down and watch Casino Royale, but maybe I want to watch Moonraker because I want to watch Bond fly through space. It just so much depends on where you are in life. When I was 13 years old, it would have been all of the more action heavy ones in the top 10, so it does change.
Yeah. So now I think you're absolutely right. Because I think all of these ones that have given us the full top 10, all of their top 3s are pretty much different. So Nairn Aiden says at the moment, roughly, his top 3 is Thunderball, Russia with Love, and Our Majesty's Secret Service. At Shaylay, number 1, Goldeneye, From Russia with Love, and License to Kill. At How Indeed, number 1, Living Daylights, Octopussy, and For Your Eyes Only. Nathan Flynn, Casino Royale, From Russia with Love, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. At Bobblehead KB, Casino Royale, No Time to Die, Skyfall. At Craig Arthur NZ, 1, Goldfinger, Russia with Love, and Spy Who Loved Me. At J6 Nasty, The World Is Not Enough, Goldeneye, and Live and Let Die. So a Brosnan fan there, definitely. At 007 Vintage, Goldeneye, number 1, From Russia with Love, and Tomorrow Never Dies. I think Goldeneye is the film that I definitely need to see again, because it's from what you guys have said and from the top 10s that people have sent in. That seems to be the highest one in all of the top 10s that I'm not sure about. So I think that's the one. Would you, if you said to me, you need to go now and see a Bond movie, is that the one that you would say I should go and see?
Out of all of them, I mean, it's not my top pick. I would go Casino Royale, but if it's one, because that wasn't on your top list at all. I would say reapprise it. I think it's definitely worth a watch again.
Right. Okay. At Listening to Film said Casino Royale, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and License to Kill. At Mr. Burns NYY was Goldeneye, Tomorrow Never Dies, and The World Is Not Enough. So the full top 3 are all there. Unconventional, yes, he said, but so fun. At Alone in the Front, A Living Daylights, From Russia with Love, and Casino Royale. At Tongscene_M, Casino Royale, From Russia with Love, On Her Majesty's Secret Service. At Sandgroper81 says, as at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday, the 27th of October, 2021, so it might be changed by now, From Russia with Love, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and License to Kill. At A Pizzle 90, Goldfinger, Goldeneye, Spy Who Loved Me. And at Take Two Podcast is Casino Royale, Goldfinger, and Skyfall. So thank you very much, everybody, for sending those in. The big question then, I want you all to give me your answers for this. Who is your favorite Bond? And we'll start with Scott.
I feel like I need to sort of weasel my way out of answering the question.
I will not accept that. You have to answer the question.
Well, okay. Can I drill down into what you want from an answer at least?
Okay.
Because there's objectively who is the best Bond or who is my favorite Bond, because they're two different questions.
Okay, I'll give you who is your favorite Bond. Yeah, we'll put it that way. That's
my favorite Bond is Pierce Brosnan. It's just he was the first one for me. I was brought into the game with GoldenEye, the game, and then the film. And so the films I saw first were his films, and then I sort of caught. I'm from England, so I've seen some of the Moores and Connerys on bank holidays from time to time.
Yeah.
But they were just a bit weird for me. I really preferred my sort of more recent films. So Pierce Brosnan was the guy.
Okay, Cam?
Yeah, I'll say, like, I think the best is Connery, but my favorite is Roger Moore. And for me, it's just the Roger Moore films are so inviting, and it's because of him. The way he just sort of navigates the world of Bond is so much fun, but it's also like he's almost inviting the viewer to have fun along with him. Like Connery doesn't seem to care as much. He's just like, hey, I'm barreling through this. Even Connery himself, I don't know if he wanted to be there, period. Whereas like Roger Moore is like, guys, isn't this fun? Like, I'm having a great time here, and I have fun with him. So even his like movies that are lesser, like I don't think View to a Kill, for example, is one of the all-time great Bond films, obviously, but he's constantly just kind of like nudging you, like, come on, guys, like, this is fun. Let's enjoy this. So I always, if I'm just wanting to throw in a Bond movie to have fun, it's going to be a Roger Moore film.
Okay, Neil?
David Niven. No, I just. No, it's Roger Moore. It's generational. It's a bit like you both said, it's the one you grew up with, and it's the one I remember the most, even after Daniel Craig. And you look back with such rose-tinted glasses on probably all the films, when in hindsight, when I remember watching, For Your Eyes Only, finding it very boring recently. But, it's each their own. But yeah, definitely more.
Yeah, I'm the same. It gets certain movies where it's almost like he's going to look to the camera and just wink. And so, yeah, you got it, guys, or just raise the eyebrow, which is obviously what he was famous for. Right, that's our top 10 Bond movies. What have you got coming up on your podcast that you can tell us about then, guys?
Well, I actually have a quick question for you guys, not to put you all on the spot, but if someone just asks you, what's the worst Bond movie? Do you have an answer?
Ooh. I might, at the moment, say Spectre. I really didn't enjoy that. I absolutely got bored in the cinema watching that. I struggled. So I need to reappraise it. I've only seen it once, but that might come to mind.
I think Quantum of Solace was one that I genuinely felt bored watching it. And I think I've only ever watched that once.
Yeah.
And I think, is that the one that had the song, but with Jack White?
That's it.
Yeah.
Terrible song.
It's the shortest Bond film, and yet feels the longest.
Yes, I would absolutely agree with that. And if I can't remember pretty much anything about the movie. That's the thing, and that's bad for him. Even if a movie is really bad, there's something you can remember about it. I just cannot remember anything about it.
Those are two really common picks that people tend to choose. Like those ones were definitely polarizing with people, and I think it's interesting in the case of Quantum. When you go to the end of Spectre, where they're revealing how all these things were tied together, all these villains were all related to Blofeld, they do not have any sort of visual reference to Quantum of Solace. The villain from Quantum is completely ignored, which tells you how they even feel about that movie.
Right.
And Scott, what about you for worst?
It might be recency bias because we covered it on the podcast a few months back, but Die Another Day is just abysmal. I really can't run to its defense. Quantum of Solace, I feel like it was trying to do something, whereas Die Another Day was just trying to annoy me.
Yeah, that tends to be my pick of the officials is Die Another Day. It's just obnoxious. And in the worst, like a lot of movies of the early 2000s have just aged the worst.
Yeah.
And it's all wall-to-wall, terrible 2000 era CG. And it's not charming. It's not fun. And the movie's quite long and it feels like it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've only ever seen that one once, and got no rush to go and watch it again.
No. Although, again, like we've done with a lot of these podcasts, where we start thinking of things that we haven't thought of for a long time. There's a lot of movies on here. I definitely need to give Sean Connery movies a bit more of a see, and I think, as much as like you say, the NAF 2000 CG, I think I need to give Pierce Brosnan just a bit more of a chance. I think I just need to. Definitely GoldenEye, I think. But like I said, what have you got coming up on your podcast, guys?
Well, we've got a bit of a a bit of a smorgasbord coming up. We have a Bond in our very immediate future. In a couple of weeks, we will be tackling the second to last Sean Connery film, So You Only Live Twice, which might give you an indication of the next Bond film after that, if you understand the order. But also we've got the Warren Beatty film Parallax View coming up, which is a bit of a critic's darling there. And we have Triple X. We're entering the Xander zone very soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Vin Diesel, it's all about family.
Yes. And do you want to tell our listeners where they can find you on social media and all that jazz?
Sure thing. Well, I mean, for spies, we're exceedingly easy to find. So
very good.
You basically just search for SpyHards. That's SpyHards on anything, and we're basically there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Apparently, we're on TikTok. I don't know.
And I take it the podcast is on wherever you can get your podcasts.
Any app, anything. Search for us on Amazon. We'll probably turn up. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we will put the links to your social medias and website. You got a website?
Yeah, we do. www.spyhards.com. That sends you through. But I mean, yeah, any podcast app, just search for SpyHards. We're everywhere.
Okay. We'll put all the information in the show notes. Neil, do you want to give all of our information out?
Of course I can. So you can find us on all the social media at Top 10 Pods. You can email us at toptenpods@hotmail.com. And also, please do come and help support the podcast at patreon.com/Top 10 Pods, where we have all sorts of rewards, such as episodes super early, and you can be a guest on one of our episodes. Please do check out all the links via the link tree. You can find the link in the show notes. And please come and subscribe and leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts, or subscribe and follow on Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever the hell you get your podcast from. Please do come along.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. I'm so glad you were here, because if it had just been me and Neil, I'd have got every single movie wrong. I wouldn't know what the hell I was talking about. Cam, Scott, thank you so much.
Awesome to see you guys.
No, pleased to be of service. This was a great time.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Neil.
Thank you very much, pal.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And let's get started with the countdown. Miss Money Penny.
10, 9.